Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DJ and the Zooms. I am Jay. And we are back, babies. Yes, we've made it through the winter. And I want to tell you that I am very proud of you because it's been a long and dark time. I was trying to think of a quote from Game of Thrones, but I can't remember. Winter is coming. No, it won't work because winter is now leaving, thankfully. I think what I had in mind is the night is dark and full of terrors, but it doesn't work either. Anyway, welcome back. And it's been a shorter break for us because I kept posting long into the winter break. You can thank Andy for that. He's the one who advised me to keep going. And then, as you know, I had to take a little break because I started a new job and I wanted to be sure I could be fully present while I learned the ropes of my new job and got used to having a 9 to 5 rhythm again. But now we can get back to the fun together. And I'm sure there would be a lot to say. Unfortunately, it was 5 a.m. So I tried to take notes. The only thing that I wrote in my notes app is, I hope you're ready for this. I wonder at what point Lawrence Stroll will just give up. So, nothing to do with the race, but still very relevant. So, as you know, we are starting this year with brand new regulations, which means the car had to be reimagined pretty much entirely. And as expected, some teams did really well with the new regulations and the reimagining of it all, and some teams are struggling. We knew that it would be chaotic. That is not a surprise for anyone. We've been saying it all winter. And that's the main reason why we were all excited and expecting and waiting for the new regulations to come in play, because we wanted to see how that was going to change the order and the way everything works. I'm not sure that I imagined that it would be this catastrophic, really. Chaotic isn't the word, because you can have chaos while everything works perfectly, just because the driving or the getting used to the car is still going on, still different and evolving. But I didn't imagine that we would have teams completely unable to race. Because that's what's going on with Aston Martin at the moment. We've heard all throughout the week and just following the Bahrain tests, rumors that Aston Martin were trying to either not compete at all or had planned in advance that they would both DNF after a certain amount of laps because the vibrations caused by the engine throughout their car is so intense that it seems like it could inflict actual nerve damage to the drivers. And nobody wants that, obviously. You know me by now. You know I am fully against anything that can put the drivers into any sort of danger or discomfort, really. I'm not a fan of them fighting for their life, literally, in these conditions. So, that has been a surprise and maybe a bit of a disappointment. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it did make me laugh. The idea of Aston Martin having to go to such lengths to keep their drivers safe after the absolute chaos that their hire of Adrian Newey created, the irony of it is not lost on me, is what I'm saying. We were expecting, I was a little worried that Adrian Newey's supposed genius was going to build an actual rocket ship and leave the rest of the teams completely behind. But I guess, okay, let's not put the carriage before the horse too soon. Obviously, Australia was just the first race. Everyone is still learning, and Aston Martin has had a shorter amount of time than they would have expected to test their car. The thing is that because Adrian Newey arrived at Aston Martin in March of 2025 and was only able to start working on the car at that point, when the rest of the teams had been working on the new model for much longer, it makes sense that they would be behind. Plus, they're having problems with the Honda engine, which makes the whole thing even more complicated. Well, hopefully they'll be able to bring evolutions to the car in the next few races and catch up, or at least become a little more, just at least safe. At this point, we would settle for safe, I guess. It's too bad that Andy's not here today. I didn't feel like having him go through the pain and humiliation, so I didn't invite him. But I'm sure we'll have the possibility of chatting with him about Aston Martin and their failures so far. Coming back to the race in Australia, this year it was a dry and sunny race, which, thankfully, because they all had enough on their plates already, to be honest, especially our local hero, Oscar Piastri, who unfortunately... Listen, 5 a.m., as I said, I wake up, turn on the TV, and what do I hear? Oscar Piastri went into the wall. He won't be participating. But there was no explanation. Just thrown in, good morning, everyone. Welcome, blah, blah, blah. Oscar Piastri won't be participating. He went into the wall. And also today we are joined by, I was like, what? What is happening? And yes, unfortunately, coming out of the garage before even the formation lap, Oscar went into the wall and was unable to start the race, which is devastating when we remember that he also went into the grass last year. It's starting to sound like maybe he's cursed at his own Grand Prix for some reason. So something to keep an eye on for next year. Yeah, it's always so sad when the local driver is unable to participate or has issues that keep him from being able to do well in the race. It was no surprise that the Mercedes were in a league of their own, really. As we know, the customer teams received the last updates for the engines at the last possible moment. So Mercedes has been working on it for much longer. They've gotten used to it and they know how to make it work to its fullest potential. So obviously now they are way ahead of the rest, but we can expect the rest of the teams to start catching up in the coming races as they start to get used to the engine and to be able to extract as much from it as they could expect. I was really happy to see George win, even if the rest of the grid doesn't catch up to Mercedes satisfactorily. Let me say it now. I wouldn't be mad if George Russell won the World Championship this year. He's the favorite, and I'm okay with it. I was very impressed by the Ferraris. They've they've been hot and cold, Ferrari, with what we've seen in practice, what we've seen during the tests, what we've seen in quali, and then the race, where Charles especially had an amazing start to the race. He was completely flying, and he went from P4 to P1 in a matter of, I don't know, not even one lap, which was really impressive. Like, he was just flew past everyone else, and they managed to hold on to not the first place, but the head of the race. They were right behind. Charles ended up P3, even though the strategy at Ferrari is still suspicious, because there were two virtual safety cars in the race, and at both points, Ferrari decided not to pit any of their drivers. Even Lewis was surprised and expressed it on the radio. He said, "We should have boxed at least one of the cars after the first safety car," which makes sense, right? And it's been a point in Qatar last year with McLaren when everyone pitted and they didn't, and it ended up losing them major points. I mean, anything could have happened, but at the end of the day, it seemed pretty obvious that it was a bad call, and it's quite shocking to see Ferrari make the exact same mistake in the very first race of this new season. But still, obviously we know the drivers are exceptional at Ferrari, so maybe they deserve even more accolades and respect for the fact that they are driving those new cars, fighting 18, now 20 of the best drivers in the entire world. And they're also fighting their own team. Hopefully, Ferrari manages to surprise us in more positive ways this year. I've said it before, and with a new season may have come a new hope, but still, the feeling remains that I have been disappointed enough by Ferrari, and I'm not even a Ferrari fan. So I guess we'll see, but I'm no longer putting any hope in them anymore. And that way, they can only surprise me positively in the future. Arvid Lindblad is one person that surprised us positively. The rookie of the year ended up in the points. He qualified ninth and managed to hold on to that position during the entire race. And that is no small feat. I don't think we've talked about him in the past. I don't remember mentioning him on the podcast. He was on my radar for the past, I would say, year, maybe two. I'm not surprised, but I am impressed. I think it's going to be really exciting to see where he'll go as the season continues. Obviously, with Cadillac entering the fray, it was the return of Checo Perez and Valtteri Bottas. Good to see them again. Not yet in a really convincing position. Hopefully, they'll be able to, again, get used to the whole circus and climb slowly up. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Red Bull are going to do, and especially, no, listen, I was going to say especially Max, but really, I love Isaac. And I think he's prodigious, and I want to see what he's going to do. I was about to say it's too bad that he comes to Red Bull at a point where they are no longer as dominant as they used to be, but maybe it's a good thing for him, because maybe that's going to mean that he'll be able to last longer than his predecessors and get used to it and slowly start improving. And by slowly, I don't think it's going to be that slow. But what I mean is, any of the drivers that have been Red Bull's second seat in the past, besides Max, I mean, could have shone had they been given the opportunity to learn and grow in their own time. And Red Bull has too easily and too soon thrown them out. Hopefully, with Red Bull management being what it has become, and combined with new regulations meaning that Red Bull aren't as dominant as they used to be, that might be a recipe for Isaac having more time to adjust. Other than that, I want to say Audi don't seem to be doing too bad, and Alpine might be doing a little better than they used to. But I think the truth of that is that too many drivers have DNF'd in this first race for us to really have a vision of what the midfield and back of the grid really looks like. It's too soon. So we need to wait a little longer. Now, please remember to like, subscribe, follow, share the posts, videos, and stories on Instagram. And, oh, you can give a thumbs up to this video on YouTube. You can download it if you're on Spotify. And you can rate the podcast, give it 5 stars on Spotify as well. Thank you for listening until the end. I love you. Bye.